Hey everybody, welcome to the SWN Spotlight Show. I'm your host, Mark Jeffrey. So glad you could be with us today. I have a special guest, Robert Pierson. Robert is from Solarize. That's solaraz.com is the website. I got that right, Robert?
Solarize.
Solarize.com. That's how
Yes.
they can get a hold of you. So great to have you here today. I know solar, obviously, in the state of Arizona. It's something we talk about all the time. But first, I want to learn a little bit more about you, Robert. How did you get to this point?
Well, I grew up in Michigan in a really small town,
What town?
North Muskegon. Graduated like 53 people in my class. 7th through 12th grade was in the same building. So, went to a private Methodist college called Adrian College and came out to Arizona with my parents to visit a friend on spring break and fell in love with it and actually moved directly out here. After that, I took a job working for a coating company. And this was one of the first businesses I opened. It was called, I think, Liquid Ceramic at the time. I became a dealer because I was amazed at how beautiful this looked on the exterior of the house. Alleviated painting, but it also had a ceramic microsphere, a tiny ceramic bead, which cut down the heat penetration into the house. So there was 10 to 15% savings.
And you're still selling for them today, it seems.
No, I'm kind of, in a way.
You just did a pitch, but go ahead, sir.
I started my own company. I left that company and I started incorporating other energy efficiency into the job, specifically insulation, AeroSeal certified duct sealing, and radiant barriers in the attic. So they could get a beautiful paint job and they could pick up about 25% energy reduction on top of it all. After that, I got into demand management. I opened up a company called Arizona Energy Management Systems, specifically designed for APS and SRP clients that were on a demand billing cycle. They could be more comfortable in their home living 10 or 15 degrees cooler, because I tried to get the message across that you really can't put a price tag on comfort. I ask people all the time if they're comfortable in their house. They say yes. I say, if air conditioning was free, would you live like this? They say no. So their comfort is dictated by the size of their bank account, which it doesn't need to be. Spent another few years doing that, and then I realized that the next step would be solar. And fortunately, I had a huge 10-year background bringing me to the level of everything that could be included with solar that wasn't currently being offered and really be in the client's best interest. With the tax credits and everything running, unfortunately, solar and a lot of businesses give people a license to steal. The reps are uneducated, and the bad travels quicker than the good, which is why we have news. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I wanted to do something different. I got scaling my business out of my mind, realizing that I could do 7 to 8 jobs a month with 100% satisfaction and always exceed my clients' expectation. So everyone that worked for me, and now I only have one other guy besides my crews, they all had to have solar, okay? Why? Because I guess I'm the car dealer that wouldn't hire someone to sell my cars unless they had a driver's license and had driven a car. Unfortunately, in my industry, 90% of the people that sell it don't have it, and there's so much that you can learn by having it, which is why I've had it since 2012. And
is that when you started you started Solarize in
started
2012?
Solarize in 2012 and then installed my house.
Well, what motivated you to, okay, I'm gonna start Solarize. I'm gonna do it on my own. What made you do that jump?
Definitely the fact that there was very little to no satisfaction with solar. It was the wild, wild west. And specifically one thing which seems like a no-brainer to me. And you know what? It's mentioned by even people I see today. I go into people's houses who it's like they have nothing better to do than get solar estimates, okay? I've seen 25 people, and you're the only guy that's asked me about my air conditioning unit. Why is that? You're not here to sell air conditioning. You're here to sell me solar. And I say, well, listen, you know what? If you were driving a Prius or a Tesla, you'd probably be doing that to get high miles per gallon, correct?
Yeah.
And what would happen if you put off-road tires on that Toyota Prius or Tesla? Your mileage would go to hell in a handbasket. And any representative looking to get you to a $0 or pretty close energy bill that doesn't look at what's causing 60% of your usage, does not belong to be in that business. So that's one of the main reasons. That started me incorporating HVAC into my solar business. This is 2012, 13. Since then, I do about $1 million a year in HVAC, which puts my pricing, half my jobs include air conditioning and heating. 2-stage specifically, high efficiency. Most people have a single-stage compressor, which is like an 8-cylinder vehicle that's always running on 8 cylinders, starts and stops throughout the day. A 2-stage HVAC unit would be like a 8-cylinder vehicle that goes down to 4 when you're on the freeway. Your mileage goes from 18 miles per gallon to 36. My pricing now on those units, like there's 3 other dealers here, I'm $4,000 to $5,000 less for a 5-ton than any of the other dealers. And that's the price I give my clients. I'm only doing this because if you do this properly, when I'm looking at the house initially and I see they have a 10-year-old AC, number one, I can alleviate building a system with 15 more panels just by giving them something that they already currently need and give them a much higher return on investment, which is why my energy upgrades always attack only 2 things on a house: swimming pool and air conditioning and heating. Swimming pool, the only thing that I do is if they have an old pump, a single-stage pump, I put in a 4-speed pump with permanent magnetic motors, which saves them about $300 to $500 a year in running the pool with a better pump.
So you think about the home holistically then. You don't just come in, give them solar, and leave. You try to take everything into consideration?
Everything. This is not a cookie-cutter approach like Tesla, which I love, takes, but Tesla disbanded their solar industry a few years ago. They sub pretty much everything out, and they don't look at electric bills. I spent an hour and a half looking at interval data on APS or SRP, which is hourly data that's going to tell me on the 5 hottest days last year, how much did these people use during their on-peak billing cycle, which for SRP would be 2 to 8, APS would be 4 to 7, Monday through Friday. And then we figure out a battery, which I'll get into in a minute with you. But I kind of got ahead of myself there.
Oh, no, that's okay. You mentioned before about some unscrupulous people and so forth. So, we were talking earlier off camera about your father's influence on you. Could you explain that a little bit more?
I will. You know what? My dad was probably the toughest man.
What was his name?
His name is Dwayne, which is my middle name. But he was an Eagle Scout by the time he was 14 and a half years old. He flew a Navy, a PBY Mariner, a Navy seaplane, stationed in Trinidad. I think from the time that I was in high school, I may have gotten 2 or 3 compliments from him. But he gave me the integrity and the work ethic that I've passed on to my 4 boys, definitely.
And you use it on a regular basis in your business.
Definitely.
Because I know you and you're all about integrity in your business. And that's one of the things that separates you, I believe.
Yep, it is. I'm not going to do a job if I have 0 unhappy clients. And if I'm going to have an unhappy client, I don't care if I made $500,000, it's not worth it to me. So
I know you deal with a lot of customers. Is there something that homeowners don't understand about how their bill looks from either APS or SRP? Is there something that they should take into consideration?
Probably the biggest thing, and this will answer part of your earliest question in 2 parts. Probably the biggest thing that people don't understand about their bills is the on-peak and off-peak, and the fact that their on-peak energy can be 10 to 20 times as costly as their off-peak energy. And if they look at their bill, they may see that they used 200 kilowatts on-peak at the cost of $180. This is an example. And they use 2,000 kilowatts off-peak at the cost of $230. So, which brings up another thing that I've always done for, almost 20 years. I supercool my house. I'm SRP, which means my expensive power is 2 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday in the summer. My house is 65 degrees now, probably 66. It goes down to 65 at 11 a.m. whether we're in town or not. Why? Because I'm the delivery driver that understands the importance of doing the majority of my driving when gas is $1 a gallon versus $5. So many people leave for work, say, I'm not going to be here, turn it up 5 degrees, Come home, turn it down 6 degrees. It costs them twice as much to reclaim that temperature. I'm getting my house down to 65 before 2 o'clock, which it goes up to 75. And my air conditioning may not even run for 30 minutes between 2 and 8 p.m., and I'm 100% more comfortable. SRP is the most difficult utility in the US of A to skin if you don't have solar and you're not accustomed to it. Bad things happen, you said. Solar does have a bad name. A lot of these out-of-state companies bring in reps that target SRP, knocking on their door, we're here to save you money. Well, in reality, we're here to cost you money because they don't understand the billing cycle and the fact that that's why these people are saying that their bills are larger after. And we'll get into that when you ask me some questions in a few minutes on the rate structures and so forth and so on.
So I know that APS and SRP, there's something they're talking about, solar change from net metering to net billing. Is that something you can help me understand?
Yep, and that already happened. Actually, SRP happened in 2015. I think it was April. APS was December of 2017. So net metering, for every kilowatt that you produce under net metering, that's one that you don't have to pay for at the regular rate, okay? See, solar is great, and it was great for APS reaching their renewable energy requirement because back in the early days, not only would clients get the state and federal tax credit, they would also get an APS rebate, which at the time, the maximum rebate they could get was $15,000 plus their 30% tax credit because APS could count their roof solar toward their renewable energy requirement. Over the years, as more and more people installed, it went down and it went away. Then they switched to net billing. Now, net billing's pretty horrendous. And I'll give you an SRP example. Okay, most utilities, APS and SRP, they both have different on-peak and off-peak costs. We'll say that off-peak are generally 12 to 14 cents. On-peak with demand may be 28 to 40 cents per kilowatt. So if your SRP, after the change was made, and some out-of-state solar guy comes in, sells you solar, he should have, without a battery, he should have only sold you what you needed to get through the on-peak. He doesn't want you to get compensated for any energy because every kilowatt that you are compensated for at only 2.81 cents, SRP is turning around and selling to your neighbor for between 14 and 40 cents, okay? Hence the battery. Better to take that energy, store it in the battery to discharge on peak when you're paying 40 cents instead of losing your shirt on a buyback, which is how the solar industry has turned from net metering to net billing. Even though I'm on my third Tesla vehicle, I know the technology. The only thing I love Tesla for is their batteries and their vehicles. Before the advent of the Powerwall 3, which came in the last year, and the only reason why my website has not been updated, it's being worked on now, was because the equation was a lot different. Let's say that you had 2 air conditioning units, and I saw you before the Powerwall 3, and we did solar. Number one, we would need 2 batteries for each one of your air conditioning units and able to just start it up. Secondly, one of the components of, or the benefits of having battery storage is peak shaving, getting rid of your on-peak cost. The second benefit is grid failure. Grid goes down if you don't have batteries, you don't have energy because the utility doesn't want a bunch of people backfeeding solar energy to the grid when they're working on the line. So the inverter actually shuts down. However, so you would have needed 4 batteries. When the Tesla Powerwall 3 came out, they did a whole bunch of unique things. Number one, I got ahead of myself again. They took away the need for us to build a new load center. So before Powerwall 3, many more batteries for many more ACs, and a separate load center, which would be designated as your backup loads. So when the grid went down, all those loads go on. Automatically, you don't even know, lights don't blink. That'd be an extra $5,000. They also put the inverters in with the new Powerwall 3. So you've got a battery and inverters that go on your wall, inside or out, solar on your roof, and you've got the best of both worlds. One battery will start up to 2 air conditioning units, and one battery also holds a little under 14 kW of energy. So if we installed solar and a battery for you in your APS today, between 4 and 7, you're on peak, Monday through Friday, your house is not pulling one thing from the grid. It's running off all your solar production and your battery storage. And what's going to determine how much storage you need is a complex analyzation of interval data on your bill, and which is why I look at the hottest days to figure out what are you using last year before this. So we make sure that you have enough storage.
And you help people understand all that when you come out. You walk them through the whole process.
I do. This is so easy for me. I could do this in my sleep, but so many people, and I'll use this, analogy. I'll say so many people want to be the expert in everything before they pull the trigger. The guy that says that I want to learn about everything with solar before I make a decision. Well, sir, you probably shouldn't buy a vehicle then, because if you buy one tomorrow, it's different in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And basically what they're doing, unfortunately, is they're stepping over $100 bills to try and save pennies. You have to find someone that you trust, that has a background that you can check on, someone like me. And I've been educating people. Heck, I've been on the same show, Diane Hunter, Home Hunter, for on and off for 18 years.
Well, and I know you a little bit, and I know that you come at this with the heart of a teacher. Rather, it's not all about sales to you. It's you want to educate. And I got that sense when we first met. I often see an acronym RCP in regards to solar compensation. Can you help me understand what RCP means?
Yep. Kind of weird acronym, but Resource Comparison Proxy. It's basically what you are paid for every kilowatt that you produce on your roof that you don't use immediately. So the RCP, in difference, I told you what happened with the change from SRP. APS, it's funny, when they made their change in 2017, every year the RCP rate drops by 10%, but not for you, the homeowner that signed an agreement with your utility, APS, in 2017. It was a 10-year interconnection agreement. So if you would have gotten solar 2017 APS, you would have been 12.9 cents as a payback, which is pretty damn good. Right now, it's 6.8 cents. And in 2 years, when you come off your agreement, yours, which went from 12.9, is going to drop to about 4 and change, which is why if you don't have a battery prior to that point, you're going to need one. And I'm trying to educate everyone to understand this bit of information, which you can ask Siri or Google. If I signed up for an RCP with APS in 2017, please explain, and it will tell you exactly what I'm telling you. But if you don't prepare for this, it looks to me, which is sad, like the tax credit's going to be wiped out this year. The residential, because early in the year, they were planning on stepping down the residential solar and wind investment tax credit over 5 years and eliminating the commercial. They did a switcheroo, and it's already passed the House, and I feel that it's probably going to be gone. So better to buy something when it's $3,000 to $4,000 less, because that's the money that you get back when you purchase a solar system or a battery, whether you finance it or pay cash. And of the 3 ways of purchasing, cash, finance purchase, or lease, one is a 4-letter word that I don't do, and that is a lease, unfortunately. I never have, because I don't care. I can't tell you that. I'm not the guy that says do as I say, not as I do. And having something attached to your house that you don't own is a big no-no.
So what are some of the factors that are fueling rates to rise quicker than they have in past years, do you think?
Hugely. And you know what? When I bought my first Tesla and started charging at home, I realized just this. When I'm charging my car, I'm pulling about 11,000 watts from my home. The only way that I would pull that much is if I was heating my pool and had both my air conditioners on. Heating my pool with a heat pump, which I do. Actually, right now, I'm chilling my pool down because I don't want it to be 87. I want to get home and it to be 83 when it's 107 out. I actually put up another 10 kilowatts of solar specifically to heat and cool my pool and to charge my vehicle, because I like being able to go 360 miles in comfort on under $10. So electric vehicles, yes. That 11 kilowatts, if I'm at a Tesla charging station and I want to charge my 100 kilowatt battery in 45 minutes and there's 50 other cars charging, they're pulling 600 kilowatts per vehicle. Okay, that's like 500 houses. Okay, now we're growing pretty darn quickly in Arizona. We're probably have the second most concentration of electric vehicles in any state other than California. Maybe we're larger. We got 100,000 more coming on this year, and we're going to be the data center hub of the frickin' country. Okay, data centers. You might as well open up a few crypto mining, businesses as well. They use a ton of power. So I'll say this because I even have a video from APS 12 years ago saying to its ratepayers, every time someone installs solar in APS territory, they're passing $1,000 per year onto all the non-solar APS ratepayers. Same thing with electrical vehicles or data centers. Every time a new data center goes up, you might as well just kiss your rate goodbye. You know what? Your neighbors want to buy an EV? Better get solar, okay? Or get one yourself.
Now, I know you talk to customers, the initial conversation you have and what's going to be asked of you is, okay, how much am I going to save and what kind of money do I need to put down? And can you help me out with financing? So walk me through the financial portion of that.
Perfect, cool. And you know what? Talking to people all the time, they all want an answer.
Yes.
I get so many calls and, I'll get yelled at by a 90-year-old lady because she's like, how much does solar cost? And I'm like, well, if I was Tesla and it was a cookie cutter, I could tell you. But since every house is different, it's going to be based on what you're pulling from the grid, which is why I look at 12 months worth of billing and interval data. I can tell you this much, Mabel, that it will be less than you're paying APS right now if you finance it with zero out of pocket. It will cash flow 10 to 15 bucks if we do this right. Sometimes even incorporating a new air conditioning unit, which they needed. And it's not really funny. It's sad in a way, but let's face it. You know what? You get everyone in Maricopa County in a room, and you find out everyone that has 10 grand in the bank, and 99% of the people are going to walk away from that situation. Okay, no one has savings. When their air conditioner breaks down, it's the most costly appliance in their home. They're not going to write a check. They're going to finance it at credit card rates and have a payment of $320 a month. It's funny because I can come in and do full solar, a battery, and HVAC unit by combining it all together with solar, get advantageous rates and terms, and they could have a payment which was $350 for all four things instead of $330 for all one, and their bill didn't go down just $100 a month. It went away. So solar savings goes beyond saving today. It goes into every time the rates go up, it doesn't matter because you're billed on kilowatt hours, your solar produces kilowatt hours, your battery discharges kilowatt hours. You are not dependent on APS or SRP for any sort of buyback or any credit on anything. You're just eliminating the purchase from the utility.
Why does it seem like, and I've known you for a bit, that you're recommending batteries more than you have in the past? Why is that?
Probably because what I mentioned earlier and the fact that I didn't want to sell you, I knew that the technology would be there and it was coming, and I didn't want to sell you 2 to 3 batteries when a year later I could turn around and sell you one, okay? And that's the thing about me. I'm willing to wait, and as far as equipment that we use, I've always used tier 1 equipment, the best solar panels on the market. And the differences between tier 1 and tier 3 are automated production assembly lines, ASTM testing, everything. So every panel is just like the last one produced. In the hundreds of solar jobs that I've done, I've had 2 panels go out, both for golf ball strikes on golf course homes. So I've learned some lessons from that. I've had one house that leaked, and people don't want to put this on the roof. They want to build a ground mount. They're worried about their roof. The benefit of having it on your roof is tenfold. Number one, in an environment like us, What happens if you put a dome over your house? Okay. You get less heat penetration into your attic, less heat gain. Your air conditioners don't have to work as hard. They run longer and you save money. So number one, we're lowering the heat gain into the house. We're protecting the whole house because the solar racking is mounted on the trusses. And what they found in hurricane and tornado areas, the only houses with trusses standing are the ones that had solar, okay? So it does kind of hold things together. We don't have to worry about that here.
Well, we have haboobs.
We do have haboobs, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as maintenance, no. Cleaning, solar panel cleaning, heck no. No, I've been approached by so many companies that want to do my free cleaning and want me to recommend them to my clients. I've had my panels cleaned 4 times in 14 years. Each time has cost me a few $100, and I haven't seen 1 ounce of increased production. So as far as maintenance, zero. The reason why the lease guys try and sell you a lease instead of a purchase is because they say all the maintenance is included. There is no maintenance with solar, nothing.
So how is it that homeowners can kind of recoup the costs of getting solar once they get installed? How does that work?
Well, I'll tell you this, and you know what? I've got an article that I can share with anyone, but solar is an investment, okay? I've got a great article from a few years ago that talks about investment in residential solar in roughly multiple states, including Arizona. Even if you financed it at 5.99%, your return on investment beats the 30-year average of the S&P 500, which is why I've always said it is an investment. You buy $50,000 worth of solar. Your first kickback is going to be when you file your taxes the next year, your benefit from the Fed is 30% or $15,000. That they're saying, hey, you know, Mr. Good homeowner doing things great for the neighborhood and community and state. Rather, your incentive for doing solar is instead of paying $15,000 to the administration, we're going to let you channel that into your house instead to pay for your solar. Now, who in this day and age wants to give any money to our government? But you also get $1,000 from the state. So here, you bought $50,000 worth of stock and you're already up $16,000 in 8 months. And guess what? You get a dividend every freaking month. That's the electric bill you're not paying. And you're not taxed on energy savings. Payback in APS on solar and battery now is about 6.9 years with a tax-free ROI of about 28.5%. Now, on a finance purchase, you know, your solar payment's $230, your prior APS payment was $260. If you're in a 20-year loan, it's still 20 years. But here's what I like to say, because my dad always did teach me something else. He taught me, you know, the best thing to use is OPM, other people's money, okay? You're using money which would be earmarked for APS and SRP to make a capital improvement on your house, of which you own, and will add value down the road. Why? Because I'm one of a handful of Pearl certified contractors here in the Valley. And before Pearl came about, we would always have to use the old, you know, stick drawing. You're sitting with clients and it's like, okay, you're out buying a house. There's 2 houses identical in every arena. They both have the same inside, same pool. One house is $500,000, but it has an electric bill of $450 a month. The other house is $550,000, and it has an electric bill of $10 a month, and it has 15 years remaining on the bumper-to-bumper warranty of the solar. Pearl realized how important that was many years ago. And they also realized the guy that spent $2,000 to take a home inspection course and spent 20 hours does not have the knowledge or education to evaluate and value the benefit of someone buying that home or business and not paying $20 worth of electric and having power if the grid goes down. So Pearl works directly with the Appraisal Institute, Arizona Department of Realtors, EnergyStar.gov to evaluate and appraise high-performing homes and businesses. Homes and businesses performing at over 65% better than that of their counterparts. When and if the electric rates go up, which they seem to every once or twice a year, that solar system you installed last month, last year, 5 years ago becomes more valuable, and Pearl realizes this. So if you're a client, you're selling your home, you call Pearl. Number one, they have a concierge department, which if you have financing on your home, this is a loan that you do not need to pay off prior to selling, because there is not a lien on your house. There is a filing, but that allows that debt to be cleared up at closing, you to sell the house for $50,000 more and pay off the $20,000 loan before closing. So you call Pearl before you sell, they're going to redo, they're tapped into every state's utilities. They're going to get the current rate of utilities now compared to when you did it, the increases, and they're going to regenerate your Pearl. So unlike most things that loses value, this only gains value.
All right, Robert, let's say, okay, from the beginning until the solar is working, what's that timeline like from the first time you knock on their door and start talking to them about it?
It's probably generally about 60 to 90 days as a rule. And you know what? I might start doing it again. I always try and do things that no one else does. Because when you're sitting with a client and you're getting them all stoked, to flip the middle finger to their utility company, okay?
Which we all want to do.
We do. Would it be better to do that now or in 2 months? I always say to people, the best time to quit drinking or smoking is always tomorrow. But the best time to start saving money is last week. So I give clients a choice. Those that sign a contract with me on the initial meeting, guess what? I'm paying their electric bills until their solar or batteries or both are activated and running. So they can give them that middle finger right then and there. But that's one of the things that I do. Also, all my jobs include AeroSeal certified duct sealing. This is a service that's been around for years. Won the Energy 100 Award, one of Popular Science's 10 most beneficial developments for the American homeowner. And there's 5 AeroSeal dealers here. The same people that I include that on their job for, they could have one of the 5 out and they could pay $3,000 to $4,000 for the same thing that I include with my solar at my cost, which is $1,000. That saves $500 a year that I don't have to produce with solar, and it cost 1/6 of the price of 5 to 6 solar panels and a bigger inverter. So that's why I do all the energy reduction, which is specifically why my jobs that have 40 panels produce like the competitors that have 70 panels, because there are so many facets of energy reduction that I can put a panel price tag on. It's on my website. New HVAC unit, 10 to 15 panels. AeroSeal, 5 panels. Ice cold synthetic refrigerant catalyst, 5 panels. High efficiency pool pump, 5 panels. All these things that I do are less, and I don't make a penny of profit on them. I'm doing that just to increase their return on investment.
Robert, do you have a story you can think of where you really changed somebody's life, where you really helped them out, or it was challenging or something, as you've been doing this for quite a while?
I do have I've got a few stories actually, and thank you for bringing that up. Back 14 years ago, I was the Northern Arizona regional manager for a company in Tucson called Stelcor Energy. Great company. I was pretty happy with them. Then I noticed my paycheck started to get, they were delayed by a week or so. Come to find out that they were in the process of claiming bankruptcy. And I had about 55 clients that were in the process of getting their jobs installed with loans from a lender that would not be paid out, and they would all be affected because of this Stelcor bankruptcy. I found an install partner, which I later ended up working for and running their company for a few years, called Baker Solar and Electric. They were passionate about the industry like me. They worked with the lenders. They agreed to step in and finish those jobs for the remaining funds on those jobs. So although I've worked for a few companies that have gone bankrupt, when a company goes bankrupt, a manufacturer, it doesn't have any bearing on your equipment, which the manufacturer backs that warranty. So, in the local companies, the Titan Solars, the XYZs that are going out of business, they didn't manufacture the product. I actually was a dealer for Titan for 7 years and help that company grow. They were a great company, but unfortunately, they bit the dust.
So I know you offer a free ebook.
Yep.
Where can people get that?
If they send me an email to Robert@solarizeaz, SOLARIZEAZ.com, I will shoot them out an electronic book. And I designed this book. It's about literally a 15 to 20 minute read, but it will give people an expert education and help them understand, reduction before production. It costs much less to reduce your energy than it does to produce that same corresponding energy. But you want to put your money in the right place. For $40,000, you could install windows on your house and they could be beautiful. You wouldn't hear as much from outside. Your bill may go down 3 to 5%. Or for $40,000, you could put solar and a battery on your home and your bill would go down 95%. So I'm going to put their money where it gives them the biggest bang for the buck.
And so if they want to contact you, your website is solarizeaz.com.
Yep, solarizeaz.com.
Robert, you brought your son Chase with you today. Hey, Chase, come over here. Chase has a special product. Come right over here, buddy. Watch your head. This is Chase, good-looking boy. So check this out. So that's Solarize. We really just wanted to get Chase on camera because he's a good-looking guy. I figured you don't have to look at me. We wanted to have a good-looking kid on there. He's got a bright future, this kid right here. Robert, it's been a pleasure having you on the SWN Spotlight Show. And Chase, I know you have a bright future, and we wish you a lot of luck. Love the hat, by the way. Thank you for watching the SWN Spotlight Show. We know that your time is valuable. You chose to spend it with us. That really means a lot to us, both Robert and myself and Chase. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.